This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, David and the Reverend Jeff take on another epic Bigfoot encounter. This time they look at Snell Grove Lake. Yeah, we're talking Monster Quest, the Nail Board, Dr. Meldrum, the whole thing. And as is tradition, we'll be going over the news topics of the week. But we also want to announce a contest from one of our sponsors, as well as a new sponsor that smells real nice. But I gotta level with you. I'm a little nervous about taking soap from a stranger, you know, Tyler Durden. And now, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Woo! That's right. Boy, our new sponsor, Dr. Squatch, sure hooked us up with some bars of soap, and that shit is just like Tyler Durden stuff, selling fat women back to their own fat asses, I guess. I'm not sure how they do it. But, boy, I got into bathroom today. I was washing with the pine tar, and I was kind of creeped out because my hands were getting blacker as I was washing them. It seemed like they was getting dirtier and dirtier. But by the time I washed it all away, that exfoliating, scrubbing sand that's in that pine tar soap bar is just like, oh, thank you to God for Dr. Squatch Soap Company. Thank you very much for being a sponsor of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. And with me, as always, is Dr. David Baddorf, pseudoscientist. What's happening, big guy?
Good. I just got my care package today, so all I've been able to do is just snip it. So
so good. It's just, you got to just give it a good stuff. That's right there. I mean, dude, with stuff like golden moss scrub, that's right. You got to date with your old lady, get you some golden moss scrub because it'll make your body smell good. That's right. I had to do that one for David because he knew where he thought it was going before I saved it. Anyhow, guess what time it is, though? It's time, that's right, to get a little newsy.
And now for the Squatchers Lounge news, bringing you the most up-to-date topics from across the interwebs week after week after week. The Squatchers Lounge podcast. Let's get newsy.
Get newsy with it. That's right. We're going to talk about that 10-year-old little brat there. But go to drsquatch.com and get you some of that Dr. Squatch soap. Pine tar, freaking spearmint, cedar citrus. How can you go wrong with this stuff? I don't know. They sent us 4 flavors. I hear there's 8. So I guess on the next time around, we'll try out the other 4 for you as well. But check them out. Also on Facebook, you can search for Dr. Squatch right there in the little thing, and it pops right up. Give him a like as well. Okay, on to the news tonight. 10-year-old Utah boy explains how he survived 30 hours by himself in the high Unitas mountains before he was finally found. You want to know what the secret was? He remembered to stay in the open. Imagine that, you know? I mean, but 30 hours on your own, out like exposed to the elements at night, dude, that's all he had on was a little jacket to keep him warm. That's my kind of kid. That's called courage. What courage is when you're scared shitless, but you go on anyhow.
You keep moving and you keep surviving. I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to. Is dude kept going.
You know, he didn't give up like that lady that had the baby in the car after 3 days and set the woods on fire. I probably would have, but that's my thing. You know, the trees will grow back.
Yeah, but I mean, 30 hours. I mean, you think about that. A day and a half for a 10-year-old boy is pretty frightening, and you can bet that he didn't just sleep his time away, if you know what I'm saying. So that's,
absolutely. Canine crew sniffed him out on Monday just before 3 p.m. and they flew his butt right off the mountain to go be reunited with his parents. Now you know how much that cost, right? A 30-hour manhunt for a kid with dogs and choppers and planes. That's got to be upwards of $150,000. Who pays for that?
I don't think they send the bill to the boy's parents.
Dude, he wandered off and couldn't find his way back. I mean, it is kind of his fault.
Like the ambulance?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they send him like an 80% bill as their insurance for like lost little kid insurance or something? I don't know. But we're going to get to the bottom of this one way or another. Who's paying for that? I'm not really sure. But it's Utah, so it's not us in California or Washington. God bless America. Anyhow, moving right along. AncientOrigins.net, one of our favorite, could be a favorite place to get news, but it's not really news. Archaeologists in Scotland are investigating the mystery of the Rhenia man. Yeah, IE is a really effed up thing in Scotland. Don't even ask me to pronounce it right. It's sort of like Arkansas or Arkansas. I never could figure it out. But, 1978, a farmer plowed through his fields discovering a 6-foot high carved stone depicting a man carrying an axe. A monumental carving turned out to be the ancient Pictish artifact, which was given the name the Rhine Man by local people after the name of a village nearby. However, since the discovery of the stone, archaeologists have largely remained mystified about its origins and history. Yeah, that's kind of like
that's the kind
going
of
out looking for the buffalo that the ancient man carved on the side of the caves, But God bless them in Scotland. There really ain't a whole lot to do. Pixies. I hear pixies. There are pixies in Scotland. 3 pints at the pot. Anyhow, you can check
but
it out.
the fact that it's just unearthed in a farming excavation, that's pretty crazy.
Well, look at the English dude that unleashed the gold hoard. That he was out there metal detecting in his friend's friggin', his friend's farm, his pasture, and Bing pops up with all this Viking gold from the Saxon hordes. It's really weird. I guess that's how we find things from old. Next thing's up: new species of TT monkey discovered in remote Peruvian forest. Now, we've all heard of the TT monkeys, and there's lots of them, but apparently this is a new species, and you and I have always gone back and forth with this. Is it a species or is it a subspecies? That's kind of the thing we're looking at.
There's different ways of classifying things. There's the lumpers and the splitters and whatnot. But no, I mean, it's always exciting when you find, even if it is a subspecies, it's a fantastic find. And some people just say species, and then later on you don't get the media update and outpouring of, oh yeah, by the way, that was just a subspecies, and it's cool.
You're right.
Geographical variant is not a cool find, but new species, that's a good find.
New species of primate, and that's important too. These are something that we've never seen before, clear until the year 2015, at least, that we're claiming that they've been discovered. So it just goes to show that large primates, and this is a large primate, this is the size of a football. This isn't some micro primate the size of your pinky, microphallus, micro primate. I think that's how that works out. But, this thing's the size of a football. So there must be plenty of them around because, they've been able to identify them over and over again now that they know where they're going to look for them. And they don't find them outside of this other geological spot. So what does that mean? Does that mean that they got kind of cut off and evolved to become their own little subset because of the specialities of where they were particularly living? Isn't that how that normally works?
That can be how it works, or geographically, if the areas overlap. So say that it's a physical trait, like okay, maybe this TT monkey has this black hooded face and the black hair around where the other TT monkeys didn't. That's just an example. That's not correct. But and that's sexually attractive, and then that becomes a trait in this one area, and the genetics change because that trait was selected sexually for so long. But on the fringe of that geographical area, you'll find hybridization and a higher instance of these black-maned TT monkeys, if you will. I'm just being I'm making this up again. But then the other
brown TT monkey.
Yeah, but the you'll see the hybridization on the fringe of that area. So there's different ways. It's either it's cut off completely, or there's just a sexual preference in a geographical area that takes.
It's like the baboons, where some of them are gray and some of them are black and some of them are white. Some have red asses, some have gray asses, and somewhere in between you'll get a mixture of the subspecies between them. Like you'll have the red-haired ones will have a white ass, or the white-haired ones will have a red ass, and it's not the way it's supposed to work. So, there's hybridization going on there in that underlying areas between, just like this. So I can see how that works. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Whole sense. See, that's why we have you as a doctor of pseudoscience.
It's all about the sex.
It's like that's right. What you want? Okay, Crappy Little Dreams: The Adventures of Craig Flippy. 2015 marks the 10-year anniversary that Craig went through the Pacific Northwest on a moped looking for Bigfoot. In the last 10 years, doesn't feel like much has changed, so he's going to get the moped back out and go on another adventure. And I say, support this dude. This cat is nothing but fun. He is a genuinely cool person, and really, for the love of God, see this little kid? This little kid needs something to be proud of his daddy about. Even though being a cool cat's really something to be proud of, he needs something to talk to this kid about when he gets older. So he's going to go back out on the moped and get it all done.
I just think it's amazing that little Flippy can already do Big Flippy. So there.
Yeah,
right there.
Micro Flippy already looks just like Big Flippy. It's kind of freaking scary. When he starts to talk, we'll really know what's going on with this kid's head, and I hope it's an adventure like any. But you can check that out at crappylittledreams.com, and you can follow Craig Flippy's adventures on his little moped 1 mile at a time. And I believe there's going to be a GoFundMe to help the cat out. And I say, give him a few bucks if you got something extra. He's going to need all the help he can get. We're behind you, Craig. So
yeah, he's searching for a Sasquatch with a ninja on its back.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. A ninja on his back with a Sasquatch. You really, really can't go wrong. All right. Next up, the first wolf pack in 91 years photographed in Northern California. First, there was OR7, who wound up settling in Southern Oregon. Now, there's a pack of 5. Mama, Papa, and 3 cubs are being photographed by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They deployed additional cameras, one of which took multiple photos showing 5 pups, which appeared to be a few months old, and others showing individual adults. So, yep, we're screwed. The wolf packs are definitely moving back into California. That doesn't make us as hunters happy. I'm sorry. Wolves kill for fun. And if they're going to be here, they damn well better be managed, or, they're really going to be able to decimate some populations before you're going to be able to do anything about it.
We'll save this for a different conversation. They also do not understand the difference between the Oregon state and Californian state. No. And if you were to walk from one to the other without road signs, you would not either. So that they're there. It's fine.
Yeah, they're there. It's fine. We'll see in 100 years who was right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thanks also to our treasured metaljewelry.com sponsor. We are able to announce the Silver Bullet contest. That's right, people. We are talking about 2 ounces of a .308 caliber replica solid silver pendant that you can hang on a little chain of your own. That's the first prize. 2 ounces of 999 fine silver. If nothing else, you don't run into bullets. That's okay. That's fine silver. That turns into money, and it doesn't do anything but go up later. Second prize is a .45 APC replica solid silver 1 ounce replica. That's right. 1 ounce again of solid silver. And I actually have one of these things here at the house, and it is heavy as crap. So we know it's definitely an ounce inside of there. And then there will be 3 third place winners of a 45 caliber replica 1 ounce brass replica, which is just, well, cool. I mean, they're just cool. You have one of those, don't you, David?
Yep. Got one of those upstairs, and yeah, silver down here.
As you can see, it is as easy as entering your name, your email address. Subject says enter me. Message says let me win. We're going to run the contest until the end of September. The contest will end exactly midnight on the 29th of September, so that we can announce them live on the air, the winners, during our podcast on September 30th. That's right. You'll hear the announce of the winners right here live on the air on September 30th. It'll be a random number generated type of thing. Your name goes into the pot. If your number comes up, you win. That's how it's done. So it's a completely honest deal. And that's all coming to you thanks to treasuredmetaljewelry.com. So you want to go there, click on the Silver Bullet contest over on the right hand side. As we're following along, you can see that little form is easy. You click submit and you are signed up. If you want to get emails about their products, please click the check here to receive email updates. But he's not going to force feed you email updates just because you entered a contest. Thank you very much to treasuredmetaljewelry.com. And with that, that's the news, people. Well, dude, what do you think, man?
It's been a little bit of a slow week, news style, but the contest is cool, and plus, it's a silver bullet, my friend.
Dudes, absolutely, it's a silver bullet. So it's time for tonight's topic. Boom, 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 boom.
And now for tonight's topic.
That's right. You know, we're going to have to get some new bumpers that actually make some sense. But hey, who has the time when you actually have a real life? Anyhow, we're talking about what happened out at Snellgrove Lake is that Ontario, Canada? I can never get the provinces right.
Ontario.
Well, that's exactly right. I've always wanted to take an expedition into like northwestern Canada where people don't live, like right at the cusp of snow, like right before the snow moves. You know, maybe 4 weeks before the snow is going to move in, or even 3 weeks before the snow moves in. Go up there and do like a 14-day expedition and really see what's getting fat for winter.
It's a great area, and if anybody is interested in the whole the Minnesota area, or if you're doing research in the Minnesota area, I mean, you're just looking north of the Minnesota area. I mean, honestly. So like I do about this time, let's put up the map. So Snellgrove, it won't show us where the cabin is, of course, but if you zoom in here, we've got a whole lot of not really I mean, there's a road down here. There's some arterials you can see. It's probably mostly dirt and gravel roads. But oh wait, well there's a town-ish. I'm assuming this is more like Bassett Station versus a city. And here's the Snellgrove Lake area, which looks to be just sort of like a chain lake, kind of a boggy area. Lots of islands, lots of good habitat. This sort of habitat, it creates so much coastline to the lake area proper that there's so much open light, there's so much good stuff, there's so much resource here. But wait, there's more, because if you notice in this picture, this area is so northerly that it's really only not completely frozen solid for about 3 months of the year. So you look at it from Minnesota, which we know Minnesota not to be a terribly warm place in the wintertime. This is a pretty good distance north here. I mean, this is 300 or 400 miles north of the American border, and in just terribly treacherous place. And just for juxtaposition, let's move in here, and even in these uninhabited quote unquote areas in Minnesota, you see the patchwork of roads and agriculture and all these other things. But you go up to just as recent up here in the Snellgrove Lake area. I gotta zoom out to get up there. And there is not this patchwork
right
anything. There are some roads. We'll get into that later. Like there is access up here, but this is not agricultural land. There's no parks. There's no theme parks. They got no movie theaters.
Yeah.
So a really cool kind of a place to start the conversation about Sasquatch in general. I mean, this is really remote.
Right. Well, let's take this just one moment to hear our tip of the week, and we'll get into the rest of the discussion on Snellgrove Lake. And now it's time for Rules to Squatch By with your old pal Wes.
Number 22. Don't bring your girlfriend out squatching with you. Bigfoot's gonna take her. I mean, haven't you seen 1970s Bigfoot flicks? The girlfriend gets taken every time. Spoiler alert. Anyways, maybe you should bring her. Use her as bait. Ha! Come check out my recent work and my art for sale at weslosner.com. Stay squatchy, my friends.
As co-host of the Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly Show, where we review the Bigfoot movies, all the good ones coming up, and we have noticed a pattern that Bigfoot does like to steal your bitch. So make sure you keep a good leash on her, or don't bring her whatsoever. So now you know where Snellgrove is, and David did a fantastic job with that. I actually went a little bit further than that and looked into that's not what I wanted to look into. I wanted to look into the other one that's over there because I don't even know who that lady is. Snellgrove Lake here is the true north outpost and cabins. These are the people who will take you there. Okay. And if you go over here and if you look, the outpost at Snow Grove Lake is in a PDF form, which I have up right here for us. And basically, it marks exactly where the cabin is on that lake. So where David had it marked in the center there, that little square off of that little tiny island is actually where the cabin is. It's kind of right on the lake because we know there's a dock right outside of the cabin.
Yeah,
but there is still
that's how they get in.
Plenty of square mileage around that cabin where Sasquatch could live 9 months out of the year when no one would, no F skimming.
Well, yeah. No, so they say that there's, the issue in resources and the issue in a lot of other things. But if you think about how traversable this area is and how easy the coastline is and how, when you zoom in this far, I'm not a terribly strong swimmer, but unless, it was so cold my legs cramped, I could swim from one side of this lake to the other.
Oh yeah, and there's really nothing in there to eat besides the northern pike, so it might take a little chewy off one of your toes or something. But that's the other point, is there's a lot of fish in this place. Now, even though it does get snowy and it does start to get cold and does start to freeze, this lake isn't really going to be frozen over for 9 months, at least not around the edges of the lake. You're still going to be able to get to some of the resources that are around the edges of the lake. But like we said, you can go for weeks on end as a primate without eating. So, if you get a huge fat layer right before winter, you can be prepared for the lean times that are, when food dies because everything's frozen.
Or you could head straight down to the Broken Mouth River and south from there.
Right. And that was one of the questions I've always asked about. Would the Sasquatch migrate larger distances to get away from the ice? Would the animals, because we know that the caribou will go 4,000 miles for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
There really isn't any reason for those caribou to move 4,000 miles. They just do it because, they just do it. But how far could a Sasquatch migrate, reasonably in a month's time with a 4 or 5 foot stride? Human males can walk 30 miles.
Even if it stopped for long periods of time. If you think about you're going to say, 30 miles per day, per blah, blah, blah. Even if it was a short distance, but over the course of 6 months ish, or even 9 months. So the 4.5
big
months,
U.
4.5 months south and 4.5 months north. You're talking about, a really reasonable, say it's 3 or 4 miles a day. You make some distance. And if all you're doing is staying out of the frost line,
4 miles a day at 30 days, you're talking about 120 miles. You're still making huge distances, but you're still only making 400 miles in that 6 months. So you really gotta be
puts you back down into Minnesota, and you're going to be cold and you're going to be frozen. But and the whole point is that you probably don't have to travel that far to find shelter. Maybe the open lake isn't the good shelter, but you pop up over that ridge and back down into that, back into Saskatchewan, if you will, to the west or something. Then you have a good resting area for the cold times. And so that's another interesting thing is, where would you go if just traveling for hundreds of miles isn't the best option? Is there another good option to weather? And there probably is.
Right. Now, in the show, they were talking about where the tracks had been found. It had actually been found down by the portage at Jay's Lake. And if you looked right down here to the right of where the cabin is, you go around the lake a couple of little turns and boom, there's the portage. So you can actually get into it. And, I don't know if they're moving those little fishing boats along here or whether there's fishing boats at the other side of the portage. The way they have it set up is quite pricey to go out there. Not as pricey as one would think, though. But it's apparently some of the best northern pike fishing on the planet. And they also have walleye and I'm sure a bunch of other species that live underneath the ice just fine. But that's literally all that really goes out there are fishermen. And they're, like we said, 9 months out of the year, they're not even out there.
Exactly. In the source material, aka Monster Quest, they were saying that really it's just like late June, but it's basically June, July, August that this place is visited, and they have a good amount of sightings, if you will, in that amount of time. which is why they thought that place was interesting, because it kind of compressed the sightings into a short amount of time.
Right. So, okay. So now these clowns go out there as the Monster Quest crew. And it was a DNA doctor, a foot doctor, and some camera operators, I think, is pretty much the way it really went down. And they're going to go investigate this Sasquatch thing.
I think there was a microbiologist that came with as well.
I think he was the DNA guy that later we found out he's running DNA tests or something. We always wonder about the qualifications of those people that run that kind of thing. But, so they go out there and they find this screw plank that supposedly was stepped on 2 years ago that might hold some physical evidence that no one's really messed with. They just turned it upside down and left it out there. Now, why they hadn't used it for the following 2 seasons, I don't understand, but apparently they've been trying to get somebody out there to investigate that thing, and turning it that way and leaving it where it was, I guess, was the best they could do.
Yeah, or maybe they had put it into action for the next previous 2 years, but nothing had come up there. So
Meldrum just made the assumption that it had been laying there for those 2 years.
Yeah, it might have been like, if it's wet and cold, it might have been 2 months, and it just looks like that. Everything turns green, and the wood grays out, and rust is Anyway, so what that board was, a lot of people think that board was to collect DNA, like it was a DNA collection device, whatever.
That's a fuck you board.
Yeah, it was a bear deterrent.
Yes,
bear, like they had where they thought a quote unquote bear came in and trashed this cabin. So they put the bear deterrent up. And then they later found blood on the board, from whatever had trashed that thing, possibly a bear, possibly a person, possibly something. But anyway, so something stepped on this thing and there was blood. There you go.
Well, I can tell you this much. If somebody had stepped on that thing and, you're going to be bleeding out pretty profusely out of your foot. And if you're out there pissing around after October, and whoever did it might be dead if it was a human. Animals tend to heal themselves a whole lot. They have the ability to know to lick the wound, or what they naturally have an instinct to heal wounds, where stupid humans need doctors.
But here's the issue with, if it was a bear, for some strange reason, the bear deterrent, a bear stepped on this. That's kind of a death sentence to the bear. I mean, it's rusty, it's dirty, it's you're going to cause an infection by multiple punctures. In a paw infection, that's huge, and that bear probably died.
I would totally agree. That's a very evasive way of keeping your cabin safe from wildlife. However, because bears don't test stuff. Bears just kind of put their paws and walk, and they kind of suffer the consequences that way. Because we've all seen the pictures of the bear with the spike in his face, or in his paw, or the porcupine spike in his face because he was too damn dumb not to get up to the asshole of a porcupine. Because let's not even go on to that thing. So they go out there to investigate this cabin that was supposedly trashed by whatever, and they collect this material, and they draw this imaginary line around the outside of this material. And what does it come out looking like, David?
It's like a damn Sasquatch.
It looks like a damn Sasquatch track. That's right. I mean,
so the interesting thing is that, it's Dr. Meldrum, and they draw 2 different kind of lines on there, like here's a maybe, here's a whatever. One has a great instep and one has another. And then of course Monster Quest does the recreation with their CGI monster, and it's exactly backwards from what they're saying. It's like, instead of the heel out, which would have been like what it looked like if the board was set the way that they said it was set, it looked like the Sasquatch was leaving and accidentally stepped on the
right, in their CGI,
versus based on what they drew anyway, versus what what they show on the, like something coming onto the porch going into the house. However, we do know that bears have the larger bones on the outside of their foot versus the inside of their foot, so might create that sort of a pattern. Whatever. I'm not here to debate the snow.
It was the Sam Squinch, damn it! It was Sam Squinch that did it, and you know it. You're just trying to hide the fact because you're a government shin.
Yep, I'm not going to debate the Snellgrove nail board right now, but one of the things actually interesting when I was going through this documentary is that the voiceover announcer who Monster Quest, obviously he is scientific-y. The science looks for the answers.
That's
and
right.
I give you what I give you.
They give me a script and I read it to you.
They were talking about the wood knocking. And this is I actually wrote a bunch of notes here. The first note that I wrote, I had to write it down exactly. Wood knocking. It's a common communication device used by great apes. It allows them to communicate over great distances.
It's like a bongogram in George of the Jungle. The monkeygram. I mean, says who?
Yeah, since when has this been a common device used by the great apes, aside from maybe us on film in that instance and Sasquatch as espoused by so many people? Interesting.
Well,
but
I've seen a chimpanzee pick up a stick and whack it against another chimpanzee's head, trying to communicate long distances from his arms. Does that count?
Chimpanzees use they come up. I'm forgetting what the actual term for this is, but during display, they'll come up and they'll pound their feet really fast, bop, 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 on the roots of of large trees. But it's as a display and it's communicating at long distances, meaning more than a few feet.
Right, like you can hear it 100 feet away
because their voices are louder than this thing. So interesting that all of a sudden tree knocking, wood against wood, the Louisville Slugger again. But this is kind of where it started, and the story in Snellgrove was from 2003. One of the earlier stories. Why one of the reasons they were investigating this was
season 1, episode 2.
Yeah, a fisherman, actually in 2003, heard a, and then he knocked back, and then the knock came back. So I'm not going to say that's not the beginning of why people thought wood knocking was a thing. But that's where they drew this out of this Monster Quest and referenced back to this 2003 wood knocking incident where it got a call and response and a call, so you heard it, you did it, and you got a response. And so people have been doing that. And when they went out to the Jeff Meldrum and the two other guys and the film crew went out to this location, that the first thing they did was try and make a bunch of noise. They did some wood knocking, they did some whoops, and to
Jack, nothing.
Quote, make noise to make themselves known, which is very much a part of the whole the wood knocking thing. It's oh, well, what are you doing? You're trying to communicate at long distances. Well, what else does that?
People. I hear people knocking on trees. I mean, seriously, and Meldrum, shame on you. Did you see the damage that you did to that poor tree? Beat the crap out of that little pine so bad you knocked the bark off from all the way around that poor little tree. It probably died. You know that you killed that tree, Dr. Meldrum, because you beat on it with that stick for so long. Shame on you. Anyhow, I'm kidding, by the way. If people don't know that, get a life. But they did beat the hell out of that little tree. It's probably fine. Yeah. It's probably 10 feet taller than it was when they were out there in 2003, because pine trees are some badass little freaking things. But still, and then all of a sudden, dude goes, well, I'm going to go off on my own. And he goes down there to Portage Land, where I just showed you those little lines that were going over to the Portage Lake. That's where he went and stayed.
That's
all by himself.
Reasonable. They're going to be in the cabin. You go somewhere else. That's a good distance away.
Oh, yeah. He was probably 20 miles from him.
By himself, where the footprints were. Hey, you're going to go make a bunch of noise. I'll sit over here and be quiet and listen.
It rained.
It rained
and it downpoured. And Animals don't move when it rains. They're just like, yeah, they're just like us. They're like, is there a tarp?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't move a whole lot when it rained either.
No, he said he laid in his sleeping bag and listened to the rain come down on his tent, and you know, and I don't blame him for that. But yeah, so they did all the normal, typical things, and nothing happened. And then what happened? Well, Biggie decides.
You know,
something decides to show up.
Something. So, which is funny because the way that they propose this in the Monster Quest, and I like to bring this stuff up too, is first before, like, chronologically, and they actually bring up the Osman thing and like aggressive Bigfoots, and then they talk about how it's frozen for so many weeks of the year, and that's why they're there this time, and then Dr. Meldrum starts talking about, well, there's a lot of different kinds of food available here year round that aren't available. Like, there's a bunch of food now, but there's not a lot of food year round. But there are some things. And he talks about the sage grouse. I've always said the grouse is a good viable option. I'm not knocking that theory at all. But then he goes on to describe basically Stone Age human hunting of, you know, creeping up on a grouse and hitting it with a stone in order to capture it and
or
dispatch
stick.
it.
Yeah,
or a stick or something like that. That's your basic Stone Age hunting tactics. That's probably, you know, where Homo erectus was or whatever. Which is interesting that you're Gigantopithecus, but you're going to throw a rock at it to kill it and eat it. Okay, that's fine. So they have a rock thrown into camp. All of a sudden, after explaining this rock throwing thing, now the rocks come into camp.
Somebody's peeing off the edge of the cabin porch there, and in comes a rock that hits the side of the building. Crack! I would shit myself.
Yep, side of the. Oh, whoa! So they're up there. They got flown in by the guy that runs the place, by the guy who runs the place, by pontoon plane. They come in under the water. They don't see anything on the way up there. So what's the most logical thing, Jeffrey, to do when a rock gets thrown at the building?
Pick it up, throw it back.
That's what they did. And then what happened later?
A rock got thrown back at them once again.
Hits the top of the building.
Yeah, that was after they were like pussying out and like kind of hiding inside because they didn't feel safe anymore. They were like, yeah, I'm kind of genuinely like kind of shaken up. You know, this stuff doesn't happen. I've been in the woods lots of times and nothing like this ever happened before. You know, this kind of stuff people talk about and you say it's not going to happen to you, but it happened to us. So we're just kind of like inside the house now with the lights turned out, and it's like we're just trying to be quiet in here. It's like, screw you, you're scared shitless and you're hoping whatever the hell it is out there goes away.
You're peeking out the window. It's like, God, we should have brought the rifles.
You're sending the cameraman out there with the night vision to go see what's around the cabin. You know, that guy had courage.
Yeah, they said that they swept it with thermals, you know, and whatever. Then they all went back inside and were looking out the window to see if they could see anything coming up on the perimeter. Apparently, there's a lot of windows in this place, so you can check the whole perimeter. But so that rock hits the roof. They actually go up and look at the rock. Kudos for.
Find the rock. If you say a rock hit the roof, show me a rock.
Go find the rock. They don't mention finding the rock or what they did with the rock or anything about the rock.
Yeah, they did. They mentioned that they took it down and they were looking at it. They had it in their hand and then it didn't get tested.
Yeah,
well, that was the whole
I guess
DNA thing.
They did that. They noted that they found the rock, but then really like, well, I guess what do you do with it from there? It's like, well, it's a rock. We found it on the roof, and I have no chain of custody back to that Sasquatch. But then. What happens after that? The night ends, and the owner shows back up to take them all out.
That's right. You're not staying another night? Really? Biggie showed up last night throwing rocks at your cabin, and you're assing out on the plane the next day. Is that how that really works? You can't extend that by one more day? Really, Monster Quest?
You just had Ape Canyon happen, and you're gonna go elsewhere. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry if your time was up. I'm sorry if the next person had like Monster Quest, History Channel, whoever is putting the money up in season 1, episode 2, you gotta know that you gotta buy up one more night at this cabin, right?
Yeah, you can't go away after Big E shows up throwing rocks at your people. You can't just pack up your gear and ass out the next day. It doesn't work that way. Why? Did you go and find any tracks? If something stood and threw things at you in the woods, there should be tracks out there for you to be able to find within a reasonable distance between where the rock landed and from where the rock was thrown. But we saw none of that. I guess they knew that it had DNA in that tissue. So they send the tissue off, some of the tissue off to Dr. Todd's hotel, Captain Mohawk Boy.
I actually have Captain Mohawk written in my notes here. Just so
That's why we're so good on air together, because we think so much alike. Yeah, so Captain Mohawk Boy, there was absolutely no DNA in any of that material that they sent me. So there's just no result. It's like, dude, I can see the hair and the flesh that was on that nail. So you know damn well that there was DNA there to start with. But something was blocking it from being read.
Yeah, or it didn't make any sense, or you duplicated like so. And here comes the sciencey thing that you can't explain in like 30 seconds. But you know, so a primer is looking for something specific. It's looking for a sequence within a genome, and it's looking at the amount of base pairs, yada, yada, yada. So you take it and you amplify it and you re-amplify it and you re-amplify it, and then you put all that data together because you're only getting chunks every time you do that because there's so much background interference that you end up with, you know, this it's like the first gen versus second gen, but the second gen is better because you can amplify it more times.
The next gen, is that, are we getting into Ketchum territory here now?
Yeah, well, we're getting into like Max Planck, Svante Pablo, Neanderthal genome stuff at the next gen level. Whether or not Melba Ketchum was actually able to do that, which I seriously doubt anyway. So, but this the first gen stuff, you know, you're it's open to a little bit of interpretation, and there's a potential for
postulation,
false information, which is why you need larger samples with that sort of stuff. And so they talk about how they washed away the rust, which, you know, I mean, that is a bacteria that causes rust. So there's an active bacteria with the flesh, and all these other things. And, you know, so they're taking this out, they're taking that out, and they're washing and cleaning, and they end up with this. And lo and behold, we find that the DNA is not quite human and not quite non-human. That's the scientific-y version of it. Not quite human, not quite non-human.
Yeah, it's like it's almost human, but not quite. So I don't know what to think about it. But as they gone on, they went to say that it was very chimp-like. The differences between it and human were in the same differences that are in human and chimp.
So, and this is, I'm totally forgetting this researcher's name right now. I should have written that down and all this other stuff I wrote down. It all came really fast. But anyway, so basically, like what they're talking about is that in this sequence, because so they're saying that non-human primates have 35 deviations. Chimpanzees have 35 deviations in these nucleotides. Okay, a nucleotide is like a section of like a base, like, so there's base. A nucleotide contains base pairs, and base pairs are just like the I mean, yeah, okay, so sorry. So what are you talking about? What you're talking about is something so specific. And what they're talking about is there are 388 total base pairs that they're looking at. That's a very small chunk of a 6 million nucleotide chunk. So 35 is how many differences. Basically, that's identical in this set. Identical DNA. There's 35 variants that you would expect to see in these primates, and you would expect to see them in a certain way. Now, this has only one variant, and everything else is absolutely human.
Right. Which is, if they say the chimps are only 3% different than human, this could be 1% different than human.
No. What this is saying is that by this particular nucleotide that they looked at, this primer and this sequence that they looked at of 388 base pairs, a chimpanzee is 10% different-ish, right? And so what this is saying is that this is what is 1 divided by 388. So we're looking at like a 0.3% variance, 0.4 round up.
Well, that's the case that we're
variance.
screwed trying to get Bigfoot DNA. There's no point in doing it. We should just give up on the DNA. We got to get a body.
Or this was human DNA, and the primer had to be amplified so many times because of the background 2-year-old
Then it became a mutagen.
that it became like improper.
A zombie.
Improper. No, it just became improper data. So what they were saying is that it's a 1 in 5,000 chance that this is human. So
which is a pretty damn good chance that it's human.
So which makes it a 1 in so a 1 in 5,000% chance that it's human, which multiply that by 35 times. 5,000 by 35 times is the chance that it's potentially a chimp, which doesn't even get you within 1%, or like or 3%.
175,000.
Yeah, so which doesn't even get you within the range of a chimpanzee by probability. So that's already like statistically, it's not possible. So the interesting thing for me is like at the end of that episode, where is Dr. Todd to comment on that information?
Yeah, the other scientist had taken over from him because he couldn't be smart enough to get rid of the galvanization primer problems or some crap.
Or
so
he had an opinion they didn't like that didn't work for season 1, episode 2.
Exactly. So that's pretty much where we're gonna leave it with that. I mean, what did they get? They got some rocks thrown at the cabin, which could have been done by their production people. We really, really don't know.
Could have been done by the cabin owners.
Right. I mean, who could have flown into another one of the small lakes without being heard or seen to screw with them to get a reaction?
We didn't really show on the map. I mean, I didn't measure it out, but within a mile at points, you're within 1 or 2 miles, you could walk off of access roads to the locations where they were. So it doesn't have to be accessed by a plane. It's probably easier and probably shorter. And if you have a plane and a resort and you're charging people exorbitant amounts of money to go there, that's probably what you do. But it's not 100% necessary. And no, there's not a good trail in, but you can get there.
And if that was the case on their end, they did not get known as the Bigfoot cabins, and they're not getting rentals because of the Bigfoot cabins. So
no, it's a fishing cabin, not a big
right. Exactly. So whatever the case may be, there were some interesting encounter type things that happened, but no physical sightings, no casts, no real physical evidence that leads to anything grandstandish as far as DNA goes. But they went back there again.
Yeah,
they went back on the second trip and had absolutely zero activity because all of the food sources were ripe 150 miles south of where they were. So what did they do? They packed up their shit and they went down there and investigated. And lo and behold, they're standing there by the blueberry trees or the jazzleberry trees or whatever the hell kind of berry trees there are. And Sarah Yernto's with them this time. And well, there's a track right there. What do you think of that? Well, it's kind of too big to be bear. I mean, literally, like, while they're standing there picking berries, they discover a track. Really?
By the way, if you're out in the woods picking berries in Sasquatch country, look down because you're not the only thing that likes to eat berries, and you might be able to get a lot of information out of the ground. Just saying.
Just out of the poop alone. Anyhow, that's where we're at. They never really got anything out of the Snow Grove things. I'd kind of like to fly up there. I mean, dude, that would be an excellent expedition. You'd be surprised how cheap it could be if we did it right.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. We want to thank our sponsors, drsquatch.com, soap company. That's right. Get your body clean. Smells so good. And treasuredmetaljewelry.com. Go sign up for the contest. Contest ends on the 29th of September 2015. That's right. If you're going to be trying to enter after that, you're screwed. Thanks a lot for the Dr. David Batdorf. I am the host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. Thanks for watching, and may the Squatch be with you.
I love that background graphic.
Dude, it was like the scariest one I could find at the moment. I didn't have to circle it either. It's like Lou Ferrigno turned into Bigfoot. Hey, come join us on Monday nights for Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly, where we cuss about all the great Bigfoot movies out there. We're doing Snow Beast next week.
Snow Beast.
Yeah, he kills everything. I love this one, man. Glory.
Destruction.
Squatch it all. .blogspot.com. Go there.